So there was this clear division that was occurring in mankind where one group of people liked to live together, enjoyed other types of interesting people and types of experiences, and together they formed new things, combinations of these things together. But then there was another group of people that felt they were better than other groups, superior, and that they should be leading, and that they could do things in ways that other folks just were not capable of doing. They were willing to use technology against people.
YouTube, do not turn away. This is not some scary movie. It's not meant to be spooky. Obviously, that man is hiding his voice for a reason. What you're about to see here is, I'm just going to call him the Sharpie of resistance. I can't tell you any more than we did an interview with somebody whose name we cannot say. We had to hide his identity for seemingly obvious reasons. If you watch that, you can watch it, but it's an hour long. And I was trying to get him to maybe shorten things, to maybe get things out in pieces that people could understand. And YouTube, what has happened is this guy has started to hold secret meetings with secret people. He gives names, but they're all fake, obviously. And he is breaking down piece by piece the mindset of our oligarch overlords. What's the final plan?
I look around and what I see makes sense happening, and I'm not quite sure what to do about it. But what I'm doing right now, which is trying to educate people on this, the information is just so much. If you try to go into it, people look at you cross-eyed after a bit, or they just don't believe it because it seems so far-fetched. But you got to understand the mindset of the person we're dealing with right now. And so what I want to do is kind of just show you something I threw together really quick.
He's breaking down the historical context, why this happens.
Game on. We go back towards the beginning of time. We see the man figured out early that what differentiated from other creatures was the ability to leverage things like leveraging different types of objects around them to gain some sort of advantage against their environment, other creatures, and even in some cases against people. They gained advantages in agriculture and in politics and society and organization and teamwork and all of these things in order to make themselves better than their environment. So there's this clear division that was occurring in mankind where one group of people liked to live together, enjoyed other types of interesting people and types of experiences, and together they formed new things, combinations of these things together. But then there was another group of people that felt they were better than other groups, superior, and that they should be leading, and that they could do things in ways that other folks just were not capable of doing. They were willing to use technology against people.
And many times, people, the difference between a conspiracy theory and a prediction or a deduction of facts is the why. The question is why. Anybody can see a string of things, and when you deduce what comes at the end, if you can't answer the question why, it's a conspiracy theory.
And there'd be times when there would be peace and people would live together. For the most part, a lot of people want to do that. It's just easier to do. You have a lot more fun that way too when you're not angry all the time. But then there is occasionally a person or two or three or a dozen that get a hold of a technology or realize something that another culture doesn't realize. Sometimes it's a mechanical advantage. Something as simple as their weapons shoot further than ours, or the ability to harness animals in some kind of sophisticated way. But rather than using that technology to create a better wheel or grow some better crops, people will look around and say, what can I take with this? Usually it's only one person once they get to the top. It's something we call the God complex. God complex.
It's far beyond what I would be able to tell you. All I can tell you is he's going to go through the whys, and we're going to get to part 1 of chapter 2 today. I got the other part coming out. I have it coming out by Monday, I promise you, if not sooner. But I kind of have to put it together in a way that and everyone can watch it, right? Because he's just making these drops. He's making these drops after drops after drops. And I want to make sure it gets out to you in the soonest way possible. So what you're going to see is his explanation of the why here, his explanation of the historical context, where it's coming from. That's what he does in part 1 and in chapter 1. And then in chapter 2, he starts to talk about the who, okay? And we're talking about Elon here. We're talking about the network state. You may remember that from the last hour-long presentation, the idea that you can kind of form and conform a government and a people by taking away everything real that they have, by destroying the economy, by taking the farms, and instead issuing your life online, making it so that you can or can't share information, making it so that you are dependent upon the oligarchs for everything, but not only that, separated, segregated, to ensure that you're only doing what they need you to do. It sounds dystopian. It's not as crazy as it sounds when it's explained to you by someone who knows what they're doing. But you need the context. Check this out. Another drop by the Sharpie of resistance.
Nationalists in the United States decided that they were going to take over and found their own country and took over an election in a country called South Africa in 1948. So the sudden change by a group of people who thought they knew better, that they were better than everybody else, this division in good and bad, had a chance again to do what it wanted to do. And that was separate everybody and create a space where they controlled who learned what, who didn't learn, who had not, and to see who would develop better. I just call it depriving and separating, enslavement. These people were separated into different areas, couldn't talk to each other, had to have a pass to go from area to area, and if you rose up, there was no room in the jails. You were just simply killed. Same with crimes. You tried to sneak, do anything, didn't have any place to fit you. There's the gallows. There's so many thousands and thousands of people. The world finally went bonkers, and people everywhere marched, and people rose up. We all know who Nelson Mandela is, but do we know why he's famous? He was in prison trying to rise up against them, finally was released, and worked to get them free after 54 years of murderous leadership trying to make a perfect white culture. They want us to forget this failure. We'll never let that happen again, will we? Right?
Yep.
That's easy to say. But look where we are right now. I really want to emphasize this. This takes us to chapter 2. And this is the end of chapter 1. Smarty pants. Well, thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
Do you have any questions? Yeah. Do you have any questions?
No, but I'm really interested to get to the next chapter.
Alright. Well, I think you're going to find it very interesting, and hopefully other people do as well. And they're going to understand what's happening, what they need to do to stop it. And there's not a lot of time. So,
Yeah, I think
There's going to be more. But what I think is happening, like, we just got to be ready for this. He's inviting people. He's inviting people to secret meetings. These people have different backgrounds. He's getting people from the military, people from tech spaces, people from church spaces. And from what it looks like, it's just going to grow and grow as he speaks to more people from different backgrounds in these secret meetings. It's so intriguing. Not just that it's important, but it's also intriguing. All right, let's keep this going.
thanks guys, thanks for joining us and coming together here to for this meeting. And I know it's you folks don't really know each other, but I kind of selected you in particular. Susan is involved in a lot of religious type of activities in the community, and Timmy represents some of the veteran community, and Steve as well is a different background as well, gamer, but also more on the ground as well.
This is where it gets crazy. He mentioned Steve is a gamer, but was kind of vague on everything else. That's because he knows that Steve is a closet MAGA guy. Steve doesn't know that he knows, but he knows that Steve is a closet MAGA guy, okay? So he He wants to put this information in front of him to see what he does, knowing he's in the closet. And it's freaking genius. It's genius. So this adds just a little more intrigue for us, but we know that Steve is a closet MAGA guy. Let's see what his reaction is. Let's see what happens.
Previously, I guess a good summary is, I'm the smartest and above all. And this is also a really good example how the definition of evil doesn't track along the lines of color or opinion necessarily by culture or things along those lines. It really comes down to who's willing to use technology to control and even kill people if necessary to keep them under that control. Or is it something in their minds of something to share and help other people become better? There's a real clear line of what two forces that are going on, but they try to muddy that because they want control. We've been seeing this going on over and over again, actually. This is not a new recognition. And they left us a little message and some instructions on the box about how to handle this new gift we were given. And it's called the Declaration of Independence. In this document, they tell us what to do. If you haven't read it, you really, really should, because it's a document that's created by the people to prevent these things from happening. And sorry for a little bit emotional, because this is important. So, once you take a look at our founding document and get past the section in the opening section, we the people, the following section immediately tells you what to do, how to recognize it, and what your role is and responsibilities as the people that are being represented by this document. This thing is completely intended to protect people with the God complex from taking control of America, and gives us instructions of how to handle this thing. But I won't linger long there. I think once you read that document, you're going to understand a little bit better your responsibility, and I urge people to start changing their mind and understanding their gravity of things when the time comes that they need to be able to act upon the responsibilities of their citizenship. The whole us versus them mentality has been around. It's in the open all the time. They use it kind of with unifying messages, what they call, you hear them all the time, where they want to collectively put together people in a bucket so that they can justify doing things to them. A lot of times it's in some way where they're just not quite as equal. In some way, and your train of thought is better, or their land is better, or you need resources to populate your new land. Whatever the reason may be, you use your position to be able to do what you need to do. 100 years went by before even the folks that were locally were out there had their own vote. Well, we saw there kind of rises of this type of mentality where people achieve technical superiority in some fashion or another. And a lot of times it literally takes the whole world catching on fire before we can kind of come together and snuff out that fire. Things can kind of go back to normal. But I do believe there is a greater amount of people that are good. It's just that once in a while, somebody gets the power to do something that other people don't understand or are aware of yet. Maybe they rise to a position where it's like they have control of things and money, and very quickly they can do these ideas that they think they should do. Quick example, Fordlandia. Henry Ford got a lot of money, revolutionized travel, to do something that other people don't understand or are aware of yet. Maybe they rise to a position where it's like they have control of things and money, and very quickly they can do these ideas that they think they should do. Quick example, Fordlandia. Henry Ford got a lot of money, revolutionized travel. I'm better. People believed it. They went and tried to create their own country called Fordlandia. You can look into it sometime. Quick scientific failure. This stuff's been tried over and over. Like we mentioned in the last video, South Africa. This is recent and relevant, in particular with our anti-hero. And this was funded in America. Us taking over a country, a political system, and hanging everybody that resisted. Really? No, it was actually another particular group that wasn't having a lot of success in the United States. And this went on for a really long time. Anybody that spoke up, they were killed, even if they weren't in the country or not. Every single one of these people, silenced over the years. It was all out there, just to cover up their murders. A systematic process that they had. For them, it was a very simple process that they had in mind. They went and took over a bunch of innocent folks that didn't understand what was going on. They created these houses with thick walls and high windows to keep in the noise and not let people see. And anybody that resisted, they went to the houses. And over time what this did, there's left a generation of people that were too scared to resist or never saw it. And what this led to was 40 years before a generation realized that there was enough, that they had to rise up, and people were not scared or were brave enough to actually speak up. And there's people that live there that were part of this whole culture and were benefiting quite well, actually. They got freed in 1994. And do you know who left there in 1994? They didn't participate in the cultural change, but he bailed that year. His leaders failed. His own aspirational money. There's even a book he read about that had his name in it as the hero taking over the world. So where his country had just failed, here we are. It's an interesting time, because now suddenly he's American, but he has no knowledge of Americans' history and what happened to build up the laws and the support features of our government and why we do all these things, because where he's from, they don't do that. So everything here doesn't make sense. It was all about efficiency and supporting those that have the best ideas. But in the tech world at that time, there was an emergence of gaming, a total revolution. A symbol that looks like nothing, but the moment it meant for a lot of people was pretty revolutionary. And that's the ability to connect together and play games from your room, connecting people all over the place. But there was also one thing that it unlocked, was that if you got the wrong kind of person who ran a server, they tended to get this, they often get this thing called God complex, or the people that were stuck playing there because it was very early on, kind of being held captive with what, here, come along with me, Mr. Elon. And you know what, let's be historically accurate here, so let's get this out of the way. We didn't have hair and plants back then. Alright, come on, my friend, you're captive this time. So, people get the God complex, they can do whatever they want, nobody else gets this, and they can create kind of their own culture. Good, bad, whatever, but they did what they wanted. I think some people may recognize this time period. Things like GameSpy, all of this stuff were created in rapid fashion just to support this new type of game. Basic harness of which was put together by John Carmack. We know that somebody in particular likes to claim this as his top skills. Right? Right? So, come on, Mr. Cool. So, as we continue our little story here, this caused a lot of friction, folks, because particularly in countries that are used to it, that, you know, hey, who's this person doing this? Why are they crashing me? I just want to play the game fairly. And in many ways, it's kind of a childish mentality, especially when you're playing with adults, or at least kids that have an adult mentality. And in my personal experience, what happened is we broke away from this kind of self-built existence or reality, and we could go create our own and set the rules there. But instead of being controlled by a darker form of thinking, you're more thinking that, hey, let's play together on equal terms. And this really created division in the world. But what it really also did was gave a very quick and wealthy young man with a lot of opinions about how simple things should be and who should be in charge, an ability to do that type of thing. So just add this to his collection of newfound abilities as he came here to America, coming straight out of apartheid. A wealthy man, or at least over into America, not really part of the solution, but here we are. So, like I mentioned, there's two types of men, good and evil, where you've got the ability to control the server and do as you will, help all, or hurt most.
There it is. That was chapter 1, a condensed version. I'll be putting out the full versions in separate posts, separate drops, so that you can actually see what his whole full thing is. But I figured my job is to bring it to you in a way that you can watch it in a single video and get the most out of it. That's chapter 1 and part 1 of chapter 2. Part 2 is coming before Monday, I promise you. This information is important. This is all kind of just background, but it's leading somewhere. And I know you see it. I know you see it. When this guy drops, so far we're the exclusive ones. We don't have to be. So I just wanted to say, if he's listening, if he's watching, thank you for this. Thank you for letting me be the ones to educate everyone else. But guys, let's get this out to everyone else. Let's get it out further than this. Part 2, chapter 2, coming next. Don't forget, we galvanize. We come together March 14th for the Veterans March. March 15th at the same place in D.C. for the Media March against the media corporations that will not show the revolution. And March 16th to go up against the Heritage Foundation and all the people that have been planning and plotting to get rid of our rights as citizens, as Americans, as human beings. Let's be honest. I want to see all of you there. Spread the word. March 14th, Veterans March in D.C.
Follow us on all these things you see here, and our link tree is in the description. Maybe even get some merch.